Hello, I am here to give a little bit of a director's commentary, essentially, on the map that I recently released called Places from Film. This is a map for Garry's mod. I've kind of been interested in mapping for quite a long time, but never got around to actually doing it, or rather, when I did, they looked like dog shit. They were terrible. This one looks like slightly less dog shit. This has been about a year or so of progress. This entire map represents about a year and change of me slowly learning Hammer and coming to understand exactly how some of the bits work. It definitely was an incremental process, and you'll be able to see areas that are a little bit more refined as we go along here, which I'll point out, about how old some of these spots are, actually, in terms of the development of the map. But the entire thrust of this map, if you haven't seen it before, haven't checked out the workshop link and played it yourself, is that I shoot film photography. I tend to go places, after hours when I'm kind of working. I'll just take random photos of things. And for the most part, I actually try and avoid getting people in my shots, just because it feels a little bit weird taking pictures of people without them realizing or asking them to take their picture. Feels a little bit off to me, so I tend to angle towards shooting places. I like photographing a place, getting a snapshot of what it looks like without people around. And this map more or less kind of distills that down to a very, very base essence, I would say. Like, for instance, this shot here is actually of a car wash in Berkley, Michigan. I think it's called the Grand Prix Auto Wash or something along those lines. It's a fairly rudimentary recreation of it. This was actually among some of the first areas that I built initially. So it's simple. I'm definitely not going to deny that. It's missing a lot of the detailing that actually exists in the real thing, but it was a good little kind of first learning experience, and then I lit it later on, which is why it looks maybe a little more competent in some ways. But this area in general is kind of cool. There's always a couple people maybe washing their cars pretty late at night. It's just a 24-hour, more or less, self-serve auto wash, with hoses on the wall, things like that. Now, you may have noticed over here, there is a weird little room kind of cut out on this side, and I know that the librarian, who had also played this map on his channel, he had gone through here initially. I think we're going to hold off for now because that enters a created area. I've done both places from film as well as a couple of kind of experimental areas where I really wanted to kind of throw things at the wall design-wise and also scripting and map logic-wise, just to see what would stick. We'll get back to that at some point later. However, let us head for the large opening in the wall. And coming along this way, we will be at some random building that I actually don't remember the name of, and only know that it's on 16 Mile Road near I-75. That's about it. This is another early recreation of a picture, essentially. I shot quite a few shots of this on a couple different stocks and in a couple of different cameras. It's quite a striking, interesting-looking building in general, with these weird kind of angled bits in this massive cut in here that leads to the actual door. Not to mention these bizarre structural support pillars that kind of cover this area here. The actual building has splashes of yellow all around it, actually, but I didn't really have yellow, and in this map I was specifically trying not to manufacture any textures that weren't explicitly like my photographs, which we'll get to that soon too. There is actually a small gallery of photos that inspired this map. Coming along this way, this is one of the few cheats that I've kind of done. This isn't necessarily a place from film, but this is a place that I've photographed. This is the attic of my house. I think I had to go up there because I was seeing some, drips or something coming down, so I stuck my my camera up there, turned the flashlight on, and took some really grainy, awful, terrible, terrifying images. And this is pretty much what it ended up looking like. Now, there are some secrets in this map. I'm only mentioning it because there is one technically in this room that I'm not going to show right now. We're going to save that for later, for a little spoiler talk, okay? We'll come back to that soon enough. Oh, God. I forgot how dark it is over here. Jesus. Heading through here, This is another photographed area. I actually work in my day job as an upholsterer, and as such, I end up a lot of times in random locales, essentially. I end up in a lot of, like, old folks' homes and municipal buildings and just businesses in general, and I tend to, because these places are open and active during the day, I will typically be there at times where almost no one else is. Sometimes it's even as late as, 11 at night, 3 in the morning, something along those lines. I tend to be where people aren't, because I need to take things out where people should be. So I get a lot of photography that ends up very, very liminal in nature, which is exactly what I want, actually, a majority of the time. So this is just a representation of one of those sort of buildings that I've been in before. And all the trim, little chairs, these weird cutout areas. Something to note, too, I'm mostly working off of just the photograph and my memory alone. So oftentimes, you'll kind of end up with spaces where I might actually not know what's around a corner or even remember it, so I just kind of get to fill in the blanks. And I find that actually pretty compelling in general. It's almost like stepping into my memory, which is terrifying because my memory is not the best. Anyways, let's see here. We can either go through this door or through this bigger door, and I'm thinking we're going to go through this door. Now, this area is quite different than its actual counterpart. There are posters and advertisements instead of 4x5 sheet film shots of abandoned mines in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And, of course, there is a door there, hand railings, things like that, but the walls themselves are actually this incredibly blindingly brilliant white painted capped concrete. Everything's very polished and almost kind of reminds me of Mirror's Edge. If you look at the photos, they kind of give that air in general. And also, I'm not sure why, but there is a weird dip in this kind of spot here. Maybe it's for drainage or something, but it's very odd. This is actually the parking lot to a local sushi place that I like called Kura. It's one of those conveyor belt sushi bars. We come here a couple times, and I always liked this weird Mirror's Edgy parking deck. Anyways, I've kind of turned it into this weird concrete brutalist nightmare, replete with a big-ass void, with my favorite brush entity in the game, Funk Dust Mote. In fact, I think that looks like it is 2 Funk Dust Motes even. I put too many of these throughout the entire map because I fucking love them. In fact, there is actually a spot not too far from here that is covered with them, and I love it. Anyways, we got a choice again. We have 2 doors, and I think this time I might choose this one. So heading down this way, this is just kind of a transitional area. This isn't actually like a place that I've taken a photograph or anything, but this is. Not in this state, mind you. This is a lot more dark in general than when I visited, but this is probably what it looks like now. This is the Northville Downs, a horse racing facility in, Northville, Michigan. The place is slated, I think, for closure and demolition at this point, and at the point where I took the photos here, it actually was pretty much on its last legs. This entire wing here, one of, I think, 3 or 4 of them actually of about this size, this entire wing was almost completely empty save for me and the people I was with. There's a couple shots represented by this area. You'll see that a lot of these spots, sometimes it's multiple areas kind of shoved together into one big blend. Sometimes it's multiple shots that kind of detail and fill out a single area like this. And then, of course, sometimes it's things that I'm just making up or improvising off of. But this kind of represents several shots, including probably my favorite one, which I believe is also a spawn point. Television, just this lone television sitting in front of these big windows here. I believe that was for watching cameras and broadcasts of the horse racing, not to mention other horse races around the world. It was a big betting thing. I never really got into it, but always thought that this space was very cool. And anyways, we're going to go through the void really quickly. Popping out over here, we are now on the train tracks. These are specifically, I don't know exactly which route it is, but this is I think a C&N Railroad or a CN, Canadian National or whatever railroad here. Now, this area is particularly interesting to me and is of particular significance because it's actually the subject of a video that I want to make very badly. What you're looking at here, and I guess in real life, is actually the remains of an abandoned commuter platform. Basically, this completely like commercial kind of track here, it carries Amtrak and things like that, but it's mostly used for like ore cars, logging stuff, car transport. Back when there was still, you know, automotive factories here in Detroit, especially in Pontiac, it would bring things to and from the plants up there. However, nowadays it doesn't see nearly as much usage, and it really, I never thought to look this up, having found what was essentially just an old broken lamppost and stairs and a handicap kind of thing just in the middle of this random railroad. I never really thought to look it up, but having done that recently, it turns out there was a commuter rail system for southeastern Michigan for probably like 20 years or so, which I'm definitely not mad about the fact that I could have hopped on a train and gone down to Detroit without having to drive. Definitely not mad. Definitely. But essentially, this is all that's left, really, of it, and it's just still sitting there rotting to this day, actually. I thought it'd be kind of interesting to recreate this, though, because technically I did kind of make this in the failed map that I might release at some point when I finally figure out exactly which soundscape assets I need to pack individually. Anyways, moving on from the SEMTA platform, or SEMTA, if you want to look that up yourself. This is something that might look a little bit familiar if you remember those shots that I had showed you down in that parking deck after the random, you know, hallway there. This is part of the remains of Quincy Mine near Houghton, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Quincy is basically what remains of a small kind of mine or, you know, ore excavation site. It's several buildings, including forges, refineries, ore processing, crushing, things like that, as well as, I believe, 2 full-sized mine towers, which you will have seen some images, actually, that really, really faded image back in the parking deck, that one on the right. That is specifically one of the main towers that would have drawn, you know, miners and ore from down deep in the earth. So, you can actually take tours of the mine tunnels themselves, but my wife and I just opted to walk around the ruins and photograph them, which I actually thought was incredibly cool. Being able to walk up to and inside of the ruins was quite the experience. So this is my little tribute to that. I thought it'd be kind of fun to make, actually, which it definitely was. My God. And then, of course, you probably noticed this flashlight over here. Mostly is here just to give you roughly something to look at to lead you in the right direction out of this area, so you don't think that you have to backtrack. I made this map specifically... Oh, hold on. Hold that thought. We'll get in here. I made this map specifically so that there were as few one-way sections as I could manage, right? The idea being that I wanted maybe a couple areas, kind of like this one, to randomly be cordoned off to the player and be kind of a almost creepypasta kind of thing, you know what I'm saying? Where you are the only person maybe in your friend group, if all of you have like played this or whatever, to have found, I don't know, the weird, ominous Centinnial building recreation, the drainage pond or whatever that I like to photograph, just because, why not? It kind of makes you feel like you're going crazy, I suppose, would be the big thing to me. That feeling of losing your mind, of not remembering a place because something has changed, is a core portion of this map, I would say. It's the way that I kind of build an almost tension with this without having any sort of explicit, terrifying stuff, for the most part. Now, speaking of spots that can open and close, this is just a door here. This little wall here is just a door that recedes into the ground and comes back up randomly. As long as you're inside of this area, the door will never close, though, so you can't be stuck in here. However, when we walk out of here, if I wait a little bit, which we'll fast forward through this, I think that it can take anywhere from... There we go. Excellent. So, randomly this door will open and close. I probably could do something where as long as you're looking at it, it doesn't open. but I think it's even creepier if it just happens to open near you. Okay, this is, I believe, essentially, this area, these two spots combined, are the earliest portions of this map. This was some of the first stuff that I actually put together for this map after, you know, declaring my other one pretty much dead. So it's quite simple, but, you know, I'd say fairly evocative. This is roughly based on some shots I've taken of Oakland Mall's parking lot in the evening. Just massive, massive oceans of black, interrupted only by big, tall, overly bright street lamps all over the parking lot. Kind of cool to see. Now, there are two paths that we can go down over here. I made this light here so that it would blink, mostly just to draw your attention over here. I figured with this humongous area, you might not notice that spot over there unless something was drawing your eye to it. Now, specifically, this, it isn't using any sort of flash pattern or anything that you can set in the lights. This is actually using a timer random that's turning off both a beam spotlight and a light spot, on and off in sync, randomly between like 0.05 seconds and 0.2 seconds or something like that. Gives it a nice flickery look, I think. Now, beyond this door is what I call the creepy expo room. It is just supposed to be a massive kind of general purpose room from like a hotel or like an exposition center. The idea being, though, that there are currently inside of here, there are several chairs that are just hovering. And when I open the door, they unfreeze. Now, obviously, it takes a little bit long, I think, sometimes for them to fall over, but I thought that would kind of give the player just enough time to realize that these things have just fallen over, like a bunch of people have suddenly just somehow apparated in front of you. Then, of course, there is the horror baby. And if we get into the trigger that apparently stretches further than I remember it stretching, the lights go out, come back on, and obviously there's a panel in front of this door here. This door itself is now closed. I wish I could make the lighting not do that, but you know. Now this hallway here will close you in if you're looking forward. If you look backwards, it obviously won't, but yeah, that closes behind you just in case you decided to double back on yourself. And then the same thing happens again towards the end here. There's a target right here on this wall, and it's a pretty strict one, but if you look here or if you walk through this hallway here, this door will shut, just to make sure that people don't get lost in a long-ass hallway. Now, speaking of long-ass hallways, this is another kind of based in reality one. This is that same facility. This guy here is of the same general trip, actually, that I took the shot of that on as well. So you got the like kind of almost hospital-y guard railing and everything, nice wood and all that, trim, these kind of bump out ceiling bits, and then that leads out into nature and the woods. Now this one specifically is some random cut through near my house. I think they were working on building a street, you know, connecting two streets together, but I guess they must have abandoned it at some point, so it just kind of turned into a weird little cut through that technically nobody owns, except for the city. Through some shrubs and kind of over, like through the trees and everything, there is, however, just this random little playset, you know, at the very far back of, I think, somebody's relatively humongous lawn, but it almost just kind of looks like a slide in the middle of the woods. It's in this case, it's a little more ominous, I will admit, than I might have been intending it to. You can probably thank the Source Engine for that and my general lack of skill. But it is actually quite cozy, the shot that I took. If memory serves correct, I took that on some Kentmere Pan 400. I think I might have pushed it one or two stops. Pushing is just where you underexpose the film and you overdevelop it to compensate for, you know, not giving it enough light. It tends to result in much more contrasty images. In the realm of color, it also tends to increase the saturation pretty extremely. But then you also start to lose detail in the shadows and also lose detail in the highlights. It starts to kind of squash the image, you could think of it. Makes things moody, though. but on that, it looks quite cozy. I took that with a Canon dial, a really weird little half-frame camera that kind of looks like it's got some sort of old-school dial phone on the front of it. So, hence the name. Anyways, moving on, we're going to enter Northville Downs in the underside, actually, over here. This is based on that. This would have been underneath where we were before in Northville Downs. This is just underneath that. It's kind of a basement area where you can find some ATMs for grabbing cash. You can bet at a couple of counters, and then you can also go ahead and get yourself some food and other stuff. And of course, there are branching paths here. We have a dark hallway and a big dark open area, so I think we'll go this way first. And you'll see what I mean about these areas being interconnected soon. This is based on a shot that I took on a film called Lomography Purple. It's just a random business building, that I shot with, I think it was a Nikon FM or something like that. But just some random architectural photography when I was first starting out. I kind of like the look of the building, though, so I figured I'd kind of recreate it here. And you'll notice that there is a light up there, as well as down here. And that's because you can get there. We'll show that eventually, I'm sure, but for now, let's head inside. Just a cozy little lobby. Very simple, very basic, just kind of trying to learn my way around lighting and, in general, creating these spaces. Nothing too complicated. We can head down this very dark, ominous hallway with this bizarre-ass bend in it. And now we are near Traverse City. As a matter of fact, we are at the Cherry Bowl. This is the former gift shop, and I think also former, Christian ministry or something. This is near Traverse City at a big, one of the last remaining... Jesus Christ. We'll check that in a minute. One of the last remaining kind of drive-in movie theaters, the old school kind of 1950s, 1960s one. It's got a massive screen on it, super cute little spot, but right next to it is what used to be the gift shop, and it is definitely not being used anymore. These were shot on some expired slide film, actually, and I really like the results. It's quite a gorgeous shot, I gotta admit, and it was a ball to recreate here. There's even around the side, there's this little shed that kind of appeared in a couple shots, so I stuck them over here. Now, there was a weird sound, and you can see that another hallway has opened up in the void. This is related to that spot that we kind of avoided earlier, so I think we're going to continue avoiding that for now. Why don't we go this way instead? This is just a weird, bad geometry room. It's still a little bit earlier, in my run of making this map. Oops. Oh, God. I'm forgetting which way to even go. That's not a good sign. This is just kind of a transitional area. I didn't really make this based on anything. But this, however, is not. This here is a spot on Woodward Avenue, somewhere between 13 Mile and 14, I believe. Some old, kind of like home goods and appliance store, but it has these bizarre kind of exteriors on the front of it where there's just these kind of boxed in areas. This would actually be open up to the road, essentially. But the rest of this, yeah, these weirdly paneled windows just everywhere. This, obviously, I've created to be a little cheeky, a little creepy with the chair in the corner. But, yeah, the rest of this, it's just odd. Very, very strange. However, we can go through here. We'll be in a couple other created areas. These are just generic interiors for the most part. You got like an office, you got like a living room or a waiting room or something. And then this is a spot I specifically call Carpet Hell. Now, Carpet Hell basically started as me wanting to make a spiral staircase, and then me making the most cursed thing possible, which was carpet on every single surface. And it looks horrendous, and I love it. Oh my god. I eventually decided to also put, lamps sideways on walls and shit, just to be a little quirky. but I'm pretty pleased with this. Now you'll definitely notice also the television here is a little guy that I've made. In fact, I'm pretty proud of it. I learned how to do cameras and projection screens like this pretty quickly with this guy. It scans through, I believe, 15, maybe 16 different cameras, randomly chooses any time between maybe 3 and 8-ish seconds, and then changes the camera automatically. It does it in a random shuffle between 2 lists, actually, including a couple of spooky ones that technically either show spots where you can't get to or show you yourself. The 2 cameras are called Stalker Cam 1 and 2. You probably already saw one, actually, before. But there is the chance also these cameras might point out something secret to you as well. So sometimes kind of looking at these might give you an idea of where to look for certain things. There definitely are... There we go. That's what I'm talking about. That one's Stalker Cam 1, I believe. And then there's a second Stalker Cam here that shows you up close and personal if you happen to be close to it. So, yeah, I'm very pleased with that, actually. Of course, like the librarian noted in his video, I tried my hardest to clip these ones, but I gotta level with you. I probably would have had to do so much vertex manipulation and so much garbage that it just was not worth it. So I decided not to for this single staircase. Now, we open up on another constructed area, just these weird, overly sized spots here. I'm even trying to use, and very poorly using it, like a forced perspective kind of thing here, where I'm tilting everything in and scaling it down as it goes along. But, of course, that doesn't work when you have props, and also the hallway is only so many 100 units long. Now, we are in a spot that is technically based on photography, but has been altered and kind of embiggened almost to make it feel a bit different, a bit off maybe. And this is based on a random garage, actually, that I came across while walking through downtown Vancouver, British Columbia. And just really weird, cool architecture I decided to replicate, and actually informed the area just beyond this garage door, which we can open with that button over there. But I think we're going to save that for a minute. I want to show you some of the other things around here first. So, car smoke, dust motes. Yeah, this is just, generic shit. I just wanted to make something that capped off this area over here. And also, I really like dust motes. I just really, really fucking like dust motes. They look so cool. Oh my god, look at them. They're perfect. Anyways, continuing on, this is definitely one of the earlier spots on the map as well, still. A lot of the spaces we just came from are actually some of the newer areas. You can probably tell from some of the detailing. This is definitely a little bit bare, but, I was learning, and it also contains something that I am pretty proud of, which is the same kind of seamless teleports that I've used in the previous maps, as well as in this map heavily. You can see we actually just popped up from down there, and now we are here, without technically having gone up. And it's just 2 hallways. That's all it ever is. I just make a teleporter, a trigger teleport, a target for the teleporter, and a landmark in the middle of the brush, right where the brush's origin spot is for the trigger teleport. And then on the other side, I copy-paste that whole thing and all of the surrounding geometry with texture locking on. I just copy it straight downwards, and I swap the position of the target and the trigger teleport and its landmark. And it works perfectly, and I think it looks pretty decent, all things considered. Easy as hell. Now, walking down here, we've got something that's a little bit more like actualized, a little bit more one-to-one with its actual shot. And this is the Macy's. I think it's no. It's an anchor store at Oakland Mall. This one is near I-75, actually, and it is this gorgeous mid-century thing. It just looks fantastic. This does not do justice to it, and I'll show a couple of shots that I've taken that didn't actually, get included into the inspiration folder because it shows a lot of the detailing that I couldn't do with this brick here. The brick in real life actually has this incredibly cool cascading kind of stippled look to it with varying bricks sticking out slightly, forming this gorgeous lattice work. Really, really stunning. I love this sort of architecture. Not many left like that here in the state, actually. And then behind it is probably the most potato-looking thing that I've made. This is a very poor attempt to recreate the exterior of that parking lot from that sushi bar that I like to go to. Yeah, this is roughly what the exterior of that looks like. There's like a really bright light up on the top floor that casts these incredibly sharp, harsh shadows across this bizarre little courtyard that kind of exists between it and a neighboring hotel. I think it's a hotel, maybe an office space. I have no idea. They all kind of blend together eventually, don't they? This is what I was mentioning, though, when I was talking about the excessive funk dust mode. You can see I have my rainbow funk dust modes here in all the windows. Can you jump through these? Thank God. Okay, no. Now, the librarian, in his little video, did question about this, and I can say I was originally going to put something behind this, make it a door, but in a little bit you'll see why that's not feasible. So we're going to actually continue along down this corridor. Just another transitional area. This isn't based in reality. And we'll end up in what is the Warren Library, the Warren Public Library Backrooms. I did some work for them not too long ago, and I ended up here a lot of times early before the library even opened, delivering things and picking up furniture that needed to be redone. So I have a lot of shots of a very empty-looking library that is particularly good for that liminal collection. So let's head in here, and this is the photography gallery, including moi. But this is essentially kind of representative of some of the reference imagery that I've used from my own film shots. You know, you've got things like this bowling alley, you've got this self-serve vac and suck, you've got this random loading dock, this hallway, a shopping cart, a very familiar image. You can actually see a little bit of that lattice work that I was talking about. It looks even cooler from close underneath, but you kind of get a feeling here for some of where I've pulled things from, right? You can start to kind of see what I'm seeing, and I think that's the coolest thing about photography. I can immortalize pretty much anything in celluloid by just taking a picture of it. Even places like this, Northville Downs, that definitely won't exist forever, unfortunately. And this is the Centinnial building, as well as that weird angly building I was talking about with the yellow splashes. You can really see how striking this oddly shaped building is. Anyways, let's move on. Oh, right. I'm holding a Nikon F, one of the old 60s versions, I think, with a prism on top instead of the metered prism that looks like a massive fucking 5-head. Dork-ass looking Nikon F, bitch. I want to say I think I'm rocking a 50mm 1.4, probably. One of the old school ones. I can see a little vignetting on it, so yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Mirror selfies are always fun, though. Look at that. Look at that beard. That cue ball. Okay, anyways, continuing on, we'll do the other dead end now. So yeah, I made this as just kind of a cozy little hideout, you know, cozy chair, I guess cozy table, and then this jukebox. And the jukeboxes in general, I didn't want to just start playing background music. One, because, you know, if you're like a streamer or you're making a YouTube video or whatever, I don't want to like jump scare you with audio, with music especially, with how copyright happy, you know, some people are on the internet. Not to mention, just in general, you never have a guarantee that someone's not putting in, you know, copyrighted material in their map. However, I've made all the music for this map. These are all my own tracks, my own tunes from past like 4 or 5 years or so. So you can use any of them. There aren't in any sort of content ID, none of that garbage. I specifically do not sign up for them because I think they're exploitative and I think they're shit and I hate them. So you do not need to worry about it at all. You can just enjoy the tunes, if you like them, that is. This one plays a random sampling of 4 tracks. I think it was Tech Room, Move On, Terminal Emulator, and Bit Swap. Bitmatch. Pressing E starts playing the music. Pressing E again fades the music out. Oh, right. I just forgot. Let's head back over here real quick. In here, I also had a jukebox. This particular one plays a song called Lower, and this is from my album Casual Funeral. Quite a cool little album. Basically wanted to make vaporwave, but specifically didn't want to sample, mostly because I was terrified of the copyright, lawyers finding my home address and nuking me from orbit. So, coming through here, this is linked, basically taken from the same complex as those 2 other, like, beige, bland, kind of hotel-looking hallways. This is actually where I would come in, is this door here, and you'd be at the rear of the elevator, and that way you'd be able to kind of get around and stuff. And this was a secure kind of, you had to get in here through asking the front desk and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, true backrooms kind of experience. You had a lot of cleaning stuff, lots of pipes, lots of stucco. But we'll save this guy for just a moment. I want to go to one quick spot first, and then we'll come back for that. Heading through here, we end up in a very spooky place. It's not particularly... This is based on 2 actual real-life areas. One is a random condominium that I had to drop some stuff off at. It's kind of this area here. And then this spot here, which is based off a random retail kind of location. Just a random shitty strip mall that I tend to frequent. I scaled them up, not... like intentionally, mind you. I did it completely accidentally by being really bad at hammer. This is another one of those earlier days, kind of the first maybe 3 or 4 months, I want to say, of me working on this map. I generated this. One happy little accident, though, with this map is you can see we go from this relatively well-lit, kind of like dusk, maybe just before dusk, right at sunset kind of vibe here, to this very much after dusk vibe over here. That was also not intentional at all. I just forgot to copy the light over by mistake. Oops. I kind of like it, though. It feels like the sun's somehow setting on you as you walk through it. Now, we're going to leave that for a moment, and you'll see why in just a minute, but we're actually going to go back to that little elevator in the back rooms here. Not those back rooms. I do have my own back rooms. We'll get to that. But not the actual backrooms. I don't know. I don't want to put the backrooms in there. It's so fucking cliche. Alright, it makes a noise. It does an ENV shake. I didn't even bother with the lighting. Look at that. Terrible. Come on out. It works. I didn't want to make an elevator. It sounded really complicated. So I just did a teleport. Now, this here is another spot based on actual shots I've taken. This one again, don't crucify me. It's not film. I didn't actually have any film cameras on me at the time. Oh, I suppose there are a couple shots, but none in color. The color ones are from my Sony NEX5 using some vintage Nikkor glass that I had. This, however, is based on the Pan Pacific 13th floor, kind of like lobby for the elevators. I stayed here in Vancouver, actually, for a little bit when we were on a trip. So I really love this lattice work kind of wood ceiling here with the lights recessed in it. Very, very cool. This is based on a random chair I found in front of an exit in a hotel conference room, which we'll actually see more of this conference room soon. However, first we need to attend to this haunted-ass looking closet. You just bump into it, and now you're in my house. Actually, this is just a recreation, very poor recreation of my house. There is obviously only like 3 or 4 rooms that I've made here, and it's also maybe a little bit off in terms of scale, but you know, it's still cozy. It's still roughly the right everything. I thought it'd be kind of fun. You know, it's kind of a mark of making a map. You know, mapping your own house, all that sort of stuff. Feels like old Doom World shit. But yeah, this is actually roughly the layout of my living room. I got a TV over here. You got a chair there, a couch here, a couple chairs over here, another chair there, and this jukebox is here in real life as well. I think it's on this channel. If you go back a little bit, I bought a Seaberg Matador. I forget the exact like code for it and everything, but it is a gorgeous 70s 45 jukebox machine. Has 160 selections. Fantastic. Bought it for like $100. Family helped me move it and got it running. Really, really cool. This one specifically only plays one song, sadly, but it is a nice song. I figured with this cozy vibe going on here, Lounge Life off the album Lounge Life would be a good bet. So then you probably already noticed there is a television here too. It's just the same as the other one, actually. It's literally just a copy and paste this whole entertainment center. So that's quite cool. And then there's a cute little fire. Okay, moving along. Right now, I'm actually sat right here. Just about right here, I think. So, this is the back room. We'll head through here and into here. This is that conference room I was teasing from earlier. Yeah, you can see this is a little bit more detailed than some of the other spots, but basically we were kind of commissioned to replace a bunch of vinyl headboards all at once, pretty much. So we just set up in a conference room and absolutely ripped for like the next 3 or 4 days. I think we did something like 180, 200 of these things. Very difficult work, but I got some really fun, mega liminal photography out of it, including this little spot here that actually leads over to the pool in real life, but in this reality, it leads to the haunted jukebox behind locked doors. Now, this is playing a weird song. I made this just, not as a shit post necessarily, but just to kind of blow off some steam and fuck around. I have a really, really terrible dictation machine. Typically, dictation tape cassette recorders really aren't particularly good at recording, like, anything but voice, and even then, it's not particularly good. Trying to record music on it, especially with the terrible, terrible internal microphone, is a really bad idea. So I did it, and then I slowed the tape down, and it sounds weird. And then I also wanted to experiment with mirrors, so I made a bathroom. This is just a bathroom. There's really nothing going on here except a bathroom. The only fun thing is the door. Oh, woo. Yeah. Alright, now I'll show you really quickly why I wasn't too concerned about missing out on this spot over here, and that's because we were right there the whole time. Whoa, how did we transport? And teleports. There's just so many teleports in this map, my god. This, you might actually recognize it from the photography gallery, but this is a very cool little spot indeed, and if it is looking familiar, maybe you've been to the Cranbrook Art Museum? This is the staircase leading up from the parking lot down here up to the kind of mezzanine level for the Cranbrook Art Museum, and in general kind of an easy way to get up to the gardens as well. It's just this gorgeous limestone or like sandstone kind of structure. I've scaled it up here, again, completely unintentionally, just being bad at hammer initially. Quite an early spot as well, and you can see we are back here too now. So we have gone in one massive loop from here all the way back and seen so much stuff. You know, this is kind of exactly what I wanted to do here, is make this massive interconnected area that you just constantly are. Okay, maybe I should fix that. I didn't think about that, actually. Shit. Ooh. I need to have that door closed. Shit. Okay. Clearly there might need to be an update for the map now that I'm breaking my own map by mistake. But I wanted this to just be this humongous dreamlike loop where you just constantly are looping back on yourself. And it makes it easy if you've missed a spot. You just keep going and you will find it again. Guaranteed. So now we've already done this path. Why don't we do this path? You got some bare bulbs. Obviously lighting your way through here, just kind of giving you a path to go along. There's some random little details here and there, little drainage pipes, stuff like that. Nothing particularly interesting here, but over here we've got a little passageway. You can see this here. This is based on a shot. I stuck my lens kind of right up to the fence and everything, and I just took a shot down this long alleyway and got it particularly spooky looking. My God. Now we're going to pop out over here, and this is quite an interesting spot, actually. So, okay, going over this area, this is a place that no longer exists. And I think this is probably the coolest thing to me about kind of photography in general, is the idea that you can capture this space, and then, let's say maybe 2 or 3 days later, somebody can come through and tear it all down. And it is now just a vacant dirt patch. And has been for a little bit. You can probably tell that this place was definitely not destined to be here for long, since we are on the inside of this little exclusion zone, and you got this little kind of junk-filled dumpster here. This is pretty much what it actually looked like when I came up initially. The area was, this way was clear, but I really didn't want people getting out and being able to see how short this road was. The rest of this, though, is actually a pretty faithful recreation. You got these kind of weird pillars in this wall here. I stuck my lens right through the fence and took my shots. But this was just a pretty boring 4-space retail area for the most part. It just had a couple of, I think it was a Chinese restaurant, there was a pizzeria called Pizza Place. That was probably the coolest set of shots that I got, actually. Pizza Place would have been here. In my version, I've got a little bit of a weird little pizzeria-looking thing in here instead. But in the actual, in reality, it's right here. And I know it's called Pizza Place because there was some sort of graphic in the window, and it had been left there for a very, very long time. You can see it's so incredibly yellowed, it's turning brown. Very odd. It almost feels like a joke, right? Like it feels like some sort of knockoff Fedi Fazbear Pizzeria or something. I don't know. It's very odd. So I decided to make, a little junky, crummy little spot here. Just has some chairs, of course, an overturned chair too, because why not? Messing around with some physical ceilings, things like that too, just getting some pipes and stuff in there. Stuff to mess around with, really. You can see also that we've got this little bit of OSB here to cover a broken window. And another jukebox. This one plays Program 1 Cross Signal, a really weird, I guess, kind of borderline experimental kind of track that I made. I definitely wasn't completely sober. It was really late at night, and I had a weird old school drum machine, a very barely functioning tape delay using an 8-track cartridge as the tape, and a couple synths, and way too much free time. And I made this sludgy, bizarre track. Okay, so continuing on. Ooh, oh, look, a door's open. Oh, yeah, pretty much. You double back on yourself constantly. There are loops all over this map. You can, like I said, go in a direction. You will probably wind up back where you started eventually. So why don't we go ahead and get back to somewhere that we haven't seen. We're going to go through the attic. We're going to go past the 16-mile building, through the weird tall hallway, and over to here again. So, you know how I mentioned that weird kind of, I guess, Backrooms almost analog that I've created? Well, through this door is a little teleporter that I've set up for a place called the Concrete Maze. And the Concrete Maze is sort of my, I suppose, interpretation, quote unquote, of the Backrooms. I didn't really just want to make, you know, putting a, ooh, hey, the yellow wallpaper, ooh, the carpet smells like piss. I just didn't want to do like the same thing everyone else did. So I thought about it for a little bit and I went, okay, what do I think of when I think of Garry's Mod maps? And for me personally, having kind of started with a cracked, definitely legal, totally legitimate copy of Garry's Mod 9, running on a definitely legal, totally legit copy of Half-Life 2, that definitely was not a janky mod already grafted onto Half-Life 2 that barely ran correctly. Definitely not. I played around in a lot of free space maps. I played around in a lot of ones that were just these bizarre, abstract, geometric, kind of concrete areas. So I made the Concrete Maze. And yes, that is the interloper sound. I like the sound of the chime. I don't know. I just happened to put it like in a bunch of random spots, so you'll probably hear that a lot. But you know, weird angular stuff. I copied this over. There's a teleport inside of all this. The door closes. It waits a few seconds for you to be confused and whatever. And then it teleports you, and the door opens, and now you are a very, very far distance away. This area in general just kind of serves as a sort of, not even hub world, I suppose, or a kind of connecting world of sorts, but more as just a bit of a palate cleanser, I suppose. I tried to make it so it's not too difficult to get back out of. Technically, there is no way for you to get stuck in here. It's not nearly as much of a maze, except for one area, but I did want to kind of experiment with some of that weird angular geometry that I'd see other people playing with. And I think this serves pretty decently. I think it should be playing about now, but yeah, it is okay. I have this set to, once you're in this area, it will randomly wait somewhere between like just a single second and like 20 or 30 seconds or so, and it will slowly fade in one of my favorite ambient tracks I've made called Wind Chimes. Mostly called, you can hear the wind chimes in the song itself. It's pretty self-explanatory, but specifically this was to test out a Roland JD800 that I managed to find incredibly cheap, which is very difficult. I'll show you the synth. The synth looks so fucking good. It is so cool looking. This looks like a space age control console, not a synthesizer. And it sounds so cool. It's got this low bit rate, really crunchy kind of chime, this wind chime sound that I use very, very egregiously through this entire song. This is just kind of a little chill out spot. I want it to be chill, relaxing, maybe a little bit ominous, almost like, you know, kind of unknowable in a way. And you'll see that especially with some of the nonsensical geometrical stuff that I do here, or I guess nonsensical spatial stuff that I do here. There's a lot of paths that overlap that shouldn't be able to overlap without, you know, colliding right into each other for the most part. So take note also, we are up here. You got a weird little staircase down there, this big tall area, right? Keep a mental note of that because we will probably be seeing it later. And one quick thing as well. You remember that tunnel that opened up over here? Yeah. Ta-da! How cool. I think I gotta do the same thing there. It looks like if it opens, it doesn't close in time. Whoops! Okay. Moving through here, you've got a bit of interconnected space again. Keep in mind this weird, thin kind of guy here, too. We are actually occupying the same space as another area that we technically can't directly get to yet. We'll have to go through the proper maze. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more maze-like. There are several invisible, seamless teleports. Well, invisible might be a little bit gracious. You can tell, right? Like right there, we just got teleported. If we were to do this again, we'd come out here again, right? That's pretty self-explanatory. You know, we come down here. This actually isn't a teleport. It's just a bare little broom. And a fun little cutout there. We will, however, be going down that hole in just a moment. In fact, actually, if memory serves correct, Ooh, look at that. I really wanted to have these areas kind of overlap as much as humanly possible because you will be seeing that soon. Keep that in mind. A lot of these areas, I wanted to have the player maybe potentially recognize them as coming from a different perspective, but it being the same shared area. It kind of makes the confusion all the more, you know, real when you come upon that realization. This is just some random little kind of drippy storm basin, I suppose you could call it. I've specifically got a little funk precipitation that drops little guys in, and then I play random blips. Pretty fun. It continues underneath here, however, and then comes down this way. We got a grate, and then a long hallway there of drainage. And then you come back up. I'm particularly proud of this slanted funk dust moat as well as the slanted chimney up here. But then we've got another 90 degree like that, and we've been teleported. In fact, we're right back where we started. So now we're going to continue forward, and we'll be up here. And where is up here? Well, glad you asked. Whoops. If we fall back down this way, we are right back here in front of the basin room. So this sort of interconnectivity is something that I really wanted to stress with this portion of the map, is these are all overlapping spaces that you are somehow ascending and descending and moving around in without really going that far in general. Not to mention this is another functional test of kind of weird looking geometry. You even got some callbacks to some other spaces too, like this weird bar similar to the one on Woodward, you know, that appliance store. Now here we've got two potential choices. The first one here is another teleport. This one, however, actually technically leads you to the wrong side of a teleport, which then leads you to a dead end. You turn around and you end up back down there in the maze portion. However, we can enter the final segment of the maze here. I wanted to make sure that you really, unless you're looking for it, you might not see that dim light coming through this window here. And then again, if we go down this way, we are right back where we started. And we can just keep doing this forever, pretty much. And the same goes backwards. The beautiful thing about that seamless quote-unquote teleport is that it is pretty easy to just drop in anywhere, and it works both ways. Now, why don't we go into this guy here, right? Kind of another a little open area, just nonsensical, weird little courtyards, benches, this cool blue light from the kind of twilighty later in the evening sky. Continuing down this way, we'll find this weird lamp in this big room here. However, what I want to do is go back over this way. And going back around this way... Huh. Right. You like? Look at that. Another loop. It's literally... I just copy-pasted this whole thing right over into two different areas. So, and then, of course, over here, this hallway basically stops like right here on the other side. It's really fun doing these seamless teleports. I gotta admit, I got a little addicted to them up here, but I'm pretty happy with how that looks in general. Now, we get two choices here again. We can either go this way, or we can go this way. And I think what we're gonna do is, real quick, we're gonna go this way, to the left. So, doing that, we are now into the concrete maze's main little atrium. This is the same space we were just in a little bit ago. This tall room here with the bridge that we walked across. This tight little room with all these specks of funk dust moat kind of going on. This is where we were just a little bit ago, actually. And this is where I kind of wanted people to start drawing, you know, the lines together and everything. I really wanted people to get that aha moment of like, oh my god, I've been here before. How have I been here? I never really like intended to kind of see all these bits, but I just happened to along the way. And it seems like that seems to be happening, which is pretty damn cool. not gonna lie. So these areas aren't based in any actual architecture or anything. These were just kind of fun little bits that I made up along the way. It almost reminds me of like a Quake 1 deathmatch level or something, to be honest with you. Now, one thing we are going to do, we are not going to go through this way like the librarian did in his own video. We are actually going to stay here for just a moment to show off a few more teleports. In fact, you might just barely see this light over here. There is a hallway this way. And of course, there's a teleport. Another impossible one. We just came from down there, and now we're up here. And you can just jump straight through. Or, if we want, we can continue around, which there shouldn't be a way to do so with such a tall hallway through there, right? However, we are now back down here. And now let's say you get a little bit confused, maybe a little bit, not panicked, but inquisitive, and you walk back through. Where does it take you? Well, okay, bad example. Hold on. Wait. We're going to do that again. There we go. So, the teleport has a couple of features. This one in particular, actually. There is a small brush, a small trigger, at the end of this hallway here where the crick happens that leads you back out into that open area. Stepping into that trigger will tell a logic case to select a random teleport destination, essentially, and assign it to the teleporter without picking, you know, it'll shuffle through. It won't pick the same one twice in a row until it's gone through all the other options possible. So essentially, going back through this will take you to different spaces, which I thought was quite cool. And I don't think that the librarian actually got really into this one too much at all, but this is a very interesting little space. So as you can see right now, we've got this weird little courtyard, kind of barely lit up and everything in there. You got these weird archways going on in here, some very bizarre architecture, definitely. We come down these steps, we go out this way, past the windows, and out into this open area, right? You got a bench here, got an empty room here, not much else going on. However, when we come back, there's now something there, and there's something here. I was fairly inspired by My House when that came out recently, so I kind of just made something, it's nowhere near as refined or really as good, but it was a way to kind of stretch my legs when it came to doing some map logic. So this is all powered by triggers and look, triggers and things like that, making sure that you're out of the line of sight whenever something changes, like maybe a hallway opening up over here. In fact, maybe a hallway becoming closed off, as a matter of fact. And even all exits becoming closed off. See, this is the fun bit now, right? You would run around this several times. In fact, actually, I think it's 7 exactly. And then the map starts to change around you again. So you come back this way. And that's normal again. So, of course, you come back this way again. And oh, look. This has changed. You can get over here in general, and this is still there, but there's no longer any way to go get to it. So this was just kind of a fun little headfuck kind of thing that I wanted to make, mostly just to learn more about Hammer, really. And I think it's done a pretty decent enough job. However, let's keep going. We're going to go ahead and trigger that shuffle one more time and come back through here. Damn it. Hold on. I think I did it. Okay, come on, please. There we go. Okay, this is the last area. And this is this weird kind of temple almost. It's like a thrumming from these floating stones that make it. It's just a bunch of move linears, I think, if I remember correctly, and some funk trains or some move trains as well for the individual ones that are moving a lot further than the others. But this was, I just wanted to make a really weird, cozy, cool little abstract area. It's got this ivy covering the walls. It's got this same kind of weird looking light pillar thing going on here as in the proper maze that we've seen before, and then it's got this little shallow pool of construct water. Oh, and funk dust motes. plenty of funk dust modes. The music that plays in here as well, that is Fogline, which is a super crunchy lo-fi piece that I recorded in 2 settings, actually. One when I was house sitting for somebody. I just kind of brought along my tape deck and some lo-fi sampling and synth stuff. I just made a cool little track, you know, just a chill little track. And then when I finally got home, I took that same tape and recorded a couple more layers onto it and made this big ambient piece. It's so chill. I gotta admit, I really like this one. I kind of made this space as a little hangout spot for myself. There's a lot of these sprinkled around. Let's get back into the tour, though. There is a branch that we've forgotten, as a matter of fact, and I can get to it pretty easily from over here. So let's finish off the concrete maze. You'll see arrows pointing at these dark spots here. These are one-way walls. See? Bop, bop. These are just little hollow brushes, basically. And you can pop out. My thought was, if the player was just kind of absent-mindedly walking forward, they might accidentally find themselves no-clipping out of reality. Kind of setting this up as the Backrooms here for the most part. And then, of course, I put the arrows down so that people were more likely to just run headlong into the darkness. This jukebox plays a song called Street Side. This actually makes use of that same dictation device that I described earlier, except what I did is I set this out on a random recycling bin at my parents' house. They live near a somewhat major road, and I just let it record for about half an hour or so. And I stretched the result. That's what you get for the ambience in the background of this, and then I recorded some kind of just nice synth sounds over top of that. All really, really lo-fi, very crunchy kind of stuff. So we'll go ahead and we'll move on from that. Let's get back to the tour and let us get back to a new area. Let's check out one area specifically down here that I said we'd get back to. So, coming through here, past that Vancouver garage is this cozy little brutalist kind of, I don't know, not cyberpunky necessarily, but this kind of chill little back alley spot in here. Very abstract in general, for sure, as well as this slightly spooky interior area here. But we've got another jukebox up top here. Oh, and this staircase, weirdly enough, this is actually something I photographed in Vancouver, so technically kind of based on something. This plays a song called Apartment 305, a Blade Runner-inspired track, kind of improv track, that I put together years ago now. I think I was using an old Wurlitzer I had serviced for the piano-y sounds, those plinky-plonkies. And then the synth itself was either a JX3P or maybe a DW8000, I want to say. Gorgeous, gorgeous sweeping synth sounds on this one. I'm actually pretty proud of this. I don't think I've released it technically to streaming or anything. It's only on SoundCloud at the moment. You probably just noticed the thunder. Oh, and again there. I didn't realize that there's actually like a sprite or like a particle thing for thunder and lightning or whatever. So I just kind of made my own. There's a light bulb up there that flashes at like 100,000 brightness that basically only gets turned on for 0.1 seconds. And then it randomly picks from a list of 3 thunder sounds and plays it about 3-ish seconds later. So I thought that would be kind of chill here. It's a pretty cool little spot, I gotta admit. I love how it feels down here. Very cozy, especially when you get in out of the rain, like down here. Let us really quickly pause that sucker. We'll come down this way, and we will enter more actual photographed areas. So this here, this specifically, is a bowling alley that I frequent. I always forget about this. This is set on a look trigger. It's got a pretty wide range. I think like this to here, I want to say. It will just drop. That's pretty much it. You look at it for a few seconds and it drops, just to kind of catch you off guard, potentially. But this is based on a bowling alley we frequent for happy hour and stuff. The bowling alley itself would actually be over here where this brick wall, where this kind of area, this room here is. It's kind of backwards right now, actually. Typically, with this room, you would have the bowling alley over this way. So I've just kind of smashed these two together. You can even see I've got a little bowling ball in there. But this is, I kind of wanted to give it that creepy pizzeria vibe again. You know, it really does have that, especially with, in the actual picture, it's got that classic arcade carpet. Maybe if I can find a decent one or make one, I might actually update this map with a bit of arcade carpet in here. However, continuing through this door, we get to the billiards room. And this is just a little pool hall that they've got inside of the, you know, the bowling alley. We'll play around a pool after we get done with game of bowling. In the current day, actually, this would be filled with 3 pinball machines, but I opted for a little dining space because I don't have pinball machine models, and I don't feel like finding or making them. We got another jukebox here. This one, pretty similar. It just plays a random track I recorded years ago. This one is called Lost in the K, actually. K being Kmart, because the samples for this track came from that abandoned Kmart, or that, not abandoned Kmart, but it was someone had uploaded to archive.org a bunch of old cassette tape rips from some background music devices that they used at Kmart in the 70s and 80s. It had things like pop songs being played as like easy listening. I think I even, I can remember Turn Around or Bright Eyes or whatever that song is called. I can never remember it, the name of it. But with like an oboe playing, you know, the lead vocal parts. Very strange. But this one I just found a random track that I really liked and I chopped it to hell using my ancient digital sampler, the Roland S550. Very, very clunky. Definitely not the optimal way to do that, but coming out here, we actually have now exited and left that city and gone to a completely different one. However, this is still a bowling alley. Now, instead of being at Classic Lanes, I believe, we are now at Hartfield Lanes in Berkley, Michigan. This stoplight is actually present in the actual building. You know, they use it to indicate which entrance you should enter from. They are doing some pretty extensive remodeling from what I understand, so technically this way is closed at the moment, and the only way to go up to the bowling alley is by going physically up here through the staircase. That's actually a weird bit about this. This is the bowling alley. You'd think this was like a parking deck or something, and underneath it is a parking lot. But this alley is actually above the ground. It's suspended up here, and you get to it up the stairs. However, in our case, going up the stairs leads us to... dun dun dun, the concrete maze again. Ooh, spooky. So why don't we get back into the concrete maze? And oh wow, we took too many turns. That's what I'm talking about. That's like the too many turns kind of thing. Is really fun to play with. Oh god, where am I? Huh. So here we go. Wow, that light bulb is sure far away. It's definitely not forced perspective. Yeah. And then the light bulb blows out, plays a sound, does a little spark. Yeah, run back through. And now... uh-oh, we're back here again. Way! There are multiple ways in and out of the concrete maze, essentially, and that was kind of, sort of what I was going for, honestly. I wanted to make sure that people could get around pretty easily without getting too lost, hopefully. Sometimes you'll just end up here, sometimes you'll just randomly exit it. Now, to show you another thing, I am going to go back up to here, and we're going to go back through here. So let's head over this way. We're going to get teleported up. We're going to go through here. We're going to go through this, go through this, go through this, go through here, go through there, and then turn right. Okay. Now, there is a choice that we made. We went this way initially. We are now going to go this way. And going this way, we are led to a chair. Okay. Very cool. However... if we come out this way now, we're back here. Hey! Now, however, you might want to try getting back into the maze proper. But... yep. Basically, you get a little umbrella guy, and then somewhere over here is an ambient generic that gets triggered when you look at it. So, I thought that'd be kind of spooky, you know? Thought that'd be kind of fun. So, let's see here. What other spaces have we not seen? There are a few remaining that we definitely haven't found yet, so why don't we go ahead and get those? Okay, now, we are back at the Cherry Bowl gift shop. Let's head inside, and instead of going down that thin passage there, why don't we go down this thick passage here? Now this, obviously in a little outdoors bit, this is based on a random, not cliff face, but a fairly eroded kind of steep slope along a trail called Empire Bluff. This is near Traverse City, but my wife and I actually took a little hike here, me with my 4x5 camera, and I got a gorgeous shot of the sunset. Not to mention some really, really good shots of Sleeping Bear Dunes. If you are happening to go to Sleeping Bear Dunes and you want somewhere that isn't necessarily as often hiked, not as densely kind of packed as Sleeping Bear proper can be, check out Empire Bluffs. This place is gorgeous. So I just kind of recreated it in the void here. I thought that was kind of looked cool. You get the tree trunks that have fallen down here as well. Now, continuing back through the void, we pop out in downtown Berkley, or at least a couple spots in downtown Berkley. This is the kind of self-service vacuum station for like cars and stuff. I've just kind of slapped it together with some brushwork and everything. Nothing too special. This is an old church that's somewhere along the walk as well. I've had a couple of shots. One that looks incredibly haunted from, you know, this angle, and one that looks a little bit weird from this angle. So now, continuing inside of here, we reach another little cozy nook. This is just something I've made as a transitional spot between two actual pictures. However, I made this specifically just to be kind of a little chill out zone for myself. Kind of sit down in the chair, and you hit the play button on the radio. You get a little sprite turns green. This plays a song called Lonely in Between. Lonely in Between was a track that I made a long while ago now, back when I was living in my old house. This one, it's this super heady kind of vaporwavy track. I wanted to capture the essence of someone going to the mall, maybe getting turned around, heading down like a little service or a back area, and winding up in the same mall like 10 years later when he comes out, or something like that. You know, it's supposed to be this sort of surreal, just vibey, vaporwavy kind of track, and I have to admit, it's one of my favorites. It does have an incredibly long introduction, though, so if you want to get to the meat of it, you might want to go on the SoundCloud playlist and just take a listen to it there. Skip ahead like 2 or 3 minutes, and it should be done with the intro. Now, this is a little loading dock I just happened to take a photo of, testing out some expired film, and a really old, boxy little camera. So, yeah. What you see is what you get. Little hint. I put a little skull here. Also, apparently I forgot to lock this door, which is really fucking stupid. I'm not very good at mapping still. And with that, I think we've seen pretty much every space that you can get to just normally, without any sort of no clipping or without any sort of secrets. So this is pretty much where I think someone's first kind of pass, if they're like, you know, if they've gone over this map 1 or 2 times, this will probably be about how much they've seen. However, there are a couple of little secrets that definitely are not telegraphed well enough that I imagine a lot of people have found them. First one is, let us go find it. Alright, so let's go down here again. This room does hold a little bit of a secret. You see, if you look at these windows for a prolonged amount of time, specifically, if you look towards that door for a certain amount of time, the glass will break. Wow, holy shit, that was good timing. God damn. So yeah, I just made this a funk break that you physically can't break yourself. And I figured if someone happened to maybe be peering in just a little bit too long, I could have the glass all bust out on them. So this is probably the scariest bit of the map. It's not very scary, obviously, but it's just a long hallway. I've got the you know, like creepy dead guy corpse model, and then it flashes red and it shoves you out at like 10,000 units a second or something stupid, and then it locks the door behind you. So I thought that'd be kind of creepy, just a little spooky for somebody that's messing around in the map maybe. Let's see here. I'm going to take us to the next secret, which is going to be right over... Oh, God. Hold on. Wait. Oh, God. Where am I? Here we go. Wait. No. Okay. So starting from here, let us head back into the attic room. This is the other kind of spooky secret. You see, I left a little bit of a trail for myself here. You see all these props kind of on the floor here? They lead you into this weird area that your flashlight does not control and basically looks horrible on your monitor. So right now you can still get back out. There's the attic over there. So we can still get back out if we want to. However, you know, you kind of walk around here. There's just these nonsensical rooms. There's also this, which is a very, very lazy, bad, you know, teleport here. Oh, God, wait, Jesus, where am I? Okay, here we go. Now, going into here, now that door that we came in from over there is completely closed off. And as you can see, we can exit right here. And that television screen will sometimes actually play a camera pointed directly at this door, basically. I thought that'd be kind of a creepy little, you know, someone maybe watches the TV a little bit too long, and then they get stuck in what I call just all capital case hell. They'll get stuck in there, and then when they pop out, they're like, oh, it was telling me. That was kind of my rough idea for that. I don't know if that's actually going to land or not, but, you know. Now, the last secret. This one might take a moment to trigger, but basically, doing that seals your fate. And what I mean is, any time between, I think, about 30 seconds or so, and I'm trying to remember. I think it's 30 seconds and about 8 or 9 minutes, you will be teleported to what I call the Void Out Room. It is a small black featureless brush box out in the middle of nowhere, somewhere over that way, I believe. And it has little teleport triggers all around it that continuously drag you back into the box. Once you're in there, you are not getting out until I tell you to. And it will kind of hold you there for a moment. There's a few really faint funk dust motes that you can see. It starts playing a track, I think, called Ex Igne Infernale or something like that. It's from this really hard kind of noise album that I made a while back. But it's a particularly creepy, eerie little sound. So I figured that would be kind of a fun one. It fades in slowly, the screen starts shaking, you get teleported, and then it will teleport you actually outside of the playable area of the map, back over here in the parking deck kind of area. So if we run back through here, you get teleported into this area. It'll flash red, and then you get teleported out to that parking lot with the 3 lights. So yeah, to answer any questions as to why suddenly you were yanked from reality and dropped into a fucking nightmare, that would be why. Okay, I think that about covers it. You can definitely tell this map is dense. There's a lot going on. There is just a lot of shit everywhere. But I will say, surprisingly, even with all of this, this map still compiled in like published quality, full LDR, full HDR, all that sort of stuff in about 2 minutes. So I'm pretty proud of this one. It is well optimized. It runs very well as well. Definitely a lot better than my first attempt. So I think I'm definitely excited to do the next map now. And I've already started work on it. It's called After Hours, and I think I've got a video up already, kind of just talking through me adding some more seamless teleports to a big-ass street. So But you can see how incredibly interconnected this sort of map is. This is the sort of thing that I want to keep doing, where things are just layered on top of each other. I wanted this to look as dense as humanly possible, where you would go through in no clip through this wall and you'll end up in here, or, you know, you go through the ceiling and you wind up in this like weird little spot here. Anything like that. I thought that would be really cool, especially when you do a no clip run like this. So yeah, I really appreciate you taking a look at this if you were interested. If you want to know anything about film photography, you can always, you know, comment. I'll answer any questions about kind of intent or how I do things. I do all of my development on my own, with the exception of cinema film, which I send out to Film Photography Project. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this. I think the year and like 3 months or so of effort definitely paid off in the end, and I've learned a lot about how to map for Garry's mod for sure. So thank you very much for coming on my little journey here. We're gonna go ahead and get out of here right now so I can get back to working on the new map. So thank you very much. I'll see you later.